Obviously, when you find out that you're having a baby, most mothers imagine that they're going to go full term, that they'll have an opportunity to have the baby shower and have that normal birth, but complications happened and I ended up having to be life flighted from Richmond, Texas to Memorial Hermann here in the medical center. Emotionally, it was a very, very scary time because children being born that early, it's not something ideal that you want within your pregnancy. My son has been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, epilepsy, and cerebral palsy. My name is Aisha Atkinson, and Aries is my son. So my son Aries was a 23-weeker, meaning that he was born extremely premature, weighing 1 pound and 11 ounces in weight. He was diagnosed with hydrocephalus, which is fluid on the brain, meaning that the cerebral spinal fluid that builds up in the brain collected within his brain and failed to drain down the spine.
My name is Dr. Manish Shah, and I'm a pediatric neurosurgeon at UTHealth Houston and Children's Memorial Hermann Hospital.
Since 2017, Dr. Shah has been in our lives as the acting neurosurgeon for my son. In total, he ended up spending 150 days in the NICU. As a mom, it was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to endure.
Using the standard of care that we have to treat hydrocephalus, initially we have to put in a temporary device to help drain the excess fluid that they have in their heads. This is called a reservoir.
So while Aries was in the NICU, he approached me with this opportunity to have Aries participate in a clinical trial for the CTOT device.
We had developed a device that uses infrared light to help visualize the brain. And Aries was one of the first babies that we put this helmet on, and we got a great picture of his brain using this harmless cap-based device.
They could see how the bleeds were resolving, the fluid that had collected in his head, and also be able to kind of see, how he was doing as far as the different surgical interventions. I had this belief even before my son was born that he was destined for greatness in some way, shape, or form. This is a way for him to be able to participate in something that can make another child's life and the outcome of their life so much, different in a positive way.
But one day we hope that it can help us figure out brain function in our smallest children and help us better understand the movement disorders that they can have. Really, the umbrella term for this movement disorder is called cerebral palsy, which just means brain stroke. So the hope is that future versions of the device will help us in real time visualize the brain function and dysfunction of a child who has these kinds of hemorrhages from prematurity, and better understand which parts of the brain are not working. And maybe we can stimulate them in some fashion and be even less and less invasive to make the movement disorder affect their lives less and for them to be more mobile. That's the hope.
The projection was that he, would possibly never walk, and he wasn't anywhere near walking despite, as much intensive physical therapy and occupational therapy. It would not be until he turned a little after 4 when we were traveling to my home in North Carolina to visit my family that he would actually start walking. And what's funny is he started doing it in the airport, and I kept saying, Aries, sit down, like stop. He kept trying to get away and take steps. I will never forget, my dad was sitting on one couch in the living room, and I was sitting on the other across the way. And Aries kept doing that same thing, and my dad kept trying to hold him, Aries, stop, but he got away, and he walked from my dad all the way over to me. I remember just cheering and crying and just being so happy and proud of him for doing that. It was just, I can't even describe it, just a miracle. It's just a miracle, and I thank God for it. I truly do. And I thank God for all of the people that impacted his ability to be able to do that.
He just has this amazing spirit, and I know it comes from his family, but he doesn't give up. It took a whole team of us, but really his extraordinarily devoted family to get him to this point. but we're very proud of him. That's been the best part, watching him grow up.
Music has always been a very powerful tool in communicating with Aries. When he was in my womb, I used to sing to him. Whenever he was in the NICU, I would sing to him. And so today, to see him, with his expressive communication to be predominantly through the melodies of music, sometimes it just takes him hearing a word that's used in a sentence and he'll start singing a song that has that particular word in it. And I think a misconception that a lot of people have about persons who are nonverbal is that they don't understand. But that's not necessarily true. With my son, his expressive language might be a little low, but his receptive language, what he hears and processes, is very high. We have to love our children for who they are. And I think that's really the major lesson that I've learned in raising my son. Originally, I had this dream, this vision of what my son would become. And ironically, none of those things have come true, but what he has managed to do in just 5 years, participating in the CTOT and being able to donate to his campus an accessible toy library in his name. Those are things that I could have never imagined him being able to do. My baby! The only way that we could have gotten there was because I had to learn to accept him for who he is, embrace his journey for what it is, and not get so caught up in what he can't do, and get caught up in what people are saying he won't be able to do or what he shouldn't be able to do. He's going to learn how to do things in his own timeline and in his own way. And I, as the mom, I have to embrace that, and I have to love him for who he is. We get so caught up in trying to control their destinies, and that's not what we're supposed to be here for. We're here to amplify that destiny by being there as a support.